Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. I'm super excited for today's first fruits. First fruits, right? On the Hope and Her podcast. We are on episode 22. Episode 22. So it is 22 days until my 40th birthday. Listen, a commitment to doing what God has asked me to do, baby. When I tell y'all, I told my guest in the back this morning, I said, listen, I have a new respect for anybody that does anything every day, okay? Because this right here, like this more, just because different things happen. So I'll say it like this, just because different things happen at different times. So last night, I had the opportunity to spend at the hospital with my nephew, who is fine, by the way. But so now, the day changed, my shift changed, and all like that kind of stuff. But 6 a.m. still comes around, all right? So we are here to offer God our first fruits, which is why I have to use these, these headphones, and they keep slipping. I don't know that I love uh, over the ear headphones, but you do get a bomb sound. I will give you that. So, but without further ado, let me introduce my guest. She needs no introduction. She is a veteran to the show. She is our resident expert on getting out of God's way, and so I'm going to bring her in. We will see our friend and colleague
Good
Dawn
morning.
Stevens.
Good
Good
morning, Dr.
morning.
Joy.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Listen, also, let me be very transparent and say that I texted Dawn at probably 11 o'clock last night and said, hey, hey, it might even been later than that. But I was like, can you be on? And what let me tell you about having somebody who was like, yeah, it was such a relief. Just because, again, when life is life and things are different, like sometimes you need to be able to call in your community. And so I'm gonna start the conversation off right there in the community space and say, like, when we talk about first fruits, what does that look like in community? What does that look like in community?
So, first fruits in community. Let's talk about it really quickly. Let me, again, thank you, Dr. Joy, for even thinking about allowing me to come on and share this morning. I said, "Ooh, wait a minute. Let me go to sleep." Okay. Let me get, I was up, as we can be at night, just finalizing a couple of things. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Let me go to sleep because I need to be alert, right? I need to be alert." Part of my delay, I was trying to share this on my page so that other people could pop in.
It's all
And
good.
so as we started, as we started talking about this, when you started it, 40 first fruits to your 40th birthday, um, I thought it was great because it's just our way to really give back to God and to be obedient to God. Good morning, Dr. Allie. Hey, that's the how we met with Doc Alley's campus. But when we started talking about first fruits, right? The Lord had called His people to give their first fruits, right? Give their best, right? And so when we start talking about in community, I love community because I've been a part of various different communities, especially when we start talking about helping women to, triumph over their different maybe traumas or tragedy, or when we start talking about women who aspire to do things in ministry or women who aspire to do things entrepreneurially. And so, in those areas, what I've noticed is sometimes we give our first fruits to other people, right? And sometimes we give our first fruits to other
We
people and not to God first, right? And so, when you start talking about first fruits in community, I love that we want to give. I'm a giver. I serve. I do a lot of various different things on a lot of different campuses. Whether it be in the church, the local church, whether it be
hmm
remote, doing retreats, or whether it's coaching or things of that particular nature. And so, based on what a person needs, right? Based on what a person needs, it may depend on what you have time for. So when we start talking about first fruits, the Lord asks us to give Him out His best, our best, right? And so
hmm
we have to make sure that we're in proper priority, right? Because one of the reasons why the book of Proverbs was written, right? It was basically to encourage believers about their prosperity, about their strength, and about their health, security in their health, right?
hmm
What I'm noticing in this season of life around, I'm a little seasoned, I say I just recently turned 50. So with my peers, I'm noticing that a lot of us are experiencing different health concerns, right? Good morning, Lena. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of different health concerns, especially women in ministry. So I do a lot of things with ministry leaders, and so they're experiencing a lot of health concerns. And the reason, I'm always asking people, are you doing all of the things for yourself that you do for people that you serve?
Let's pause right there. Let's ask that question. Are you doing all the things for yourself that you are doing for the people you serve? That is a huge, huge question, particularly when we talk about community, because we can get so far into giving to those around us that we are not caring for ourselves. One of the things that I said in my book was the best you is a well you. And I can't be the best me for nobody else if I'm not being a well me. Thank you for your transparency, Lena. Lena said no. No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, Lena, come on. Lena, hey, Lena, that's my community right there. Just tell the truth, Lena. I love it. Yeah,
Lena telling the truth for us, right? Like,
just
no,
tell the
I'm not.
truth.
And here's the thing. Listen, so so also good morning to everybody, right? Let's say hi to us because your hi matters. Dr. Ali is here. She said good morning to us. Lena is here. Lena is here. She said good morning to us. We want to make sure that we say good morning to those who want to say good morning. Good morning to those who don't and will never say good morning. And then we want to say good morning to those that catch it on the replay. So if you're catching it on the replay, make sure you say hashtag replay so we can come back and say good morning to you, because we'll always say good morning at some point when we see it, right? And so we just want to make sure that we acknowledge y'all. So, like, we're asking the question this morning: are we giving to others as much as we give to are we giving to ourselves as much as we're giving to others? And we're talking
Right.
about this importance of doing this inside of community and having one of the things that comes with community is accountability. Is accountability. And I think that it is a tragedy. I also wrote this in the book. I wrote a lot of stuff in that book. Y'all need to get this book, all right? But I also wrote in the book that one of the most dangerous things that you can do, it is so dangerous and irresponsible to the people that you serve not to care for yourself. It is both dangerous and irresponsible. And so we gotta make sure that we literally are giving as much to ourselves as we give it to everybody else. All right.
Well, let me explain why I asked, right? So
Okay, let's go for it.
let's go on up to Proverbs 3, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Proverbs
so
3.
Proverbs 3, verse 9, and it says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruit of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Okay. So basically, the Lord's request was that, we honored him, right, with
Mm-hmm.
our wealth, with our first fruits of pretty much everything that we have, right? With everything that we have. And so one of the things, that the reasons that I asked if we were doing for ourselves what we do for other people, because sometimes we skip a step, right? God asks us to put him first,
Uh-huh.
right? We have to put him first. We have to give to him first. And in our giving to him, then we'll give to ourselves. But we
Mm-hmm.
should be giving to ourselves. So when we communicate with God, when we go to God first, when we sit at God's feet, when we get instruction, when we spend time with the Lord, right? When we spend wise time with the Lord, because, sometimes, you have to be very clear about why you're spending time with the Lord. Sometimes we're refreshing, sometimes we're refueling, sometimes we're getting instruction. There's different ways to be at the feet of our Father. And so
There. Mm.
what we have
Oh,
to be
go
careful
ahead.
about is when we're in the presence of the Lord and when we're giving God our first fruits, be it financially, be it physically, be it mentally, be it in our prayer life, be it in how we serve, we have to make sure that we're not misappropriately allocating the resources in the cup that he's given us.
Pause. Pause. We gotta make sure that we are not misappropriating, inappropriately, misappropriate. What did you say? Allocating the resources.
I don't know, but
Yeah, she said something about that resource. Like we gotta allocate these resources, right? That's the
yeah,
point.
we
And
do.
mhm,
Because what I was having a conversation with the young lady, and a lot of times you can redirect people back to what they would do for the people that they serve,
uh-huh.
because it's primarily what they need for themselves, right? And so we were talking about this thing about people who serve, or people who are in ministry, or people who are leaders, pouring out of what's in your cup to fill you up and not giving from the saucer around the cup, right? So you're supposed to make sure that you've read your word, that you sat at the feet of your father, that you've gotten instruction, that you've rested, right? Like, we have a template that we've rested. A lot of us will, to the point of exhaustion, show up in community, right? Because this is what your question was, Joy. Show up in community exhausted, trying to serve a friend, right?
Baby,
Which,
listen, pause. Show up in community exhausted, trying to serve a friend. Let me, if you've been there, I just need you to put in the chat that I've been there. Let's say good morning to some folks. Good morning, good morning. Marvina, good morning. Diagi, good morning.
morning,
Sweeney,
good morning,
we are excited that you are all here with us this morning.
morning,
Listen,
coach.
we are talking about first fruits and community. The question on the table is: are we giving to ourselves what we are giving to other people? Coming from the scripture Proverbs 3 verse 9, and it says, honor the Lord. I'm gonna use that the New Living Translation.
Mm,
Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then
Say
he
that
will
part again for me.
then with the honor the Lord with your wealth and with the
Mhm.
best part of everything you produce.
Everything
The,
you produce, right?
yeah, everything you produce,
Oh,
all of it, all of
okay.
the things, all of them, the things that you produce. All right.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then she said, morning, ladies. Who's that?
Good
Oh,
morning.
Dr. Allie. Oh, and then good morning, good morning. And she said, then your barns will be filled with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. Listen to me.
Good
Listen
wine,
to
though. Good
me.
wine.
You know, I'm all right with a
They
little
say
good
your wife
wine,
don't go with spoiled wine or old wine,
but
or cheap
the
wine,
good
right?
wine,
You didn't
right?
say that, right?
The good
Or the
wine.
very last bit of what you had, right? So I promise you, go. Ooh, I love that you read the scripture in the NLT, because you know I'm an NLT girl.
Okay, listen. I'm LLC, but baby, I've been reading from the message recently. I'm gonna have to switch over and see what that say. But when you said with your wealth, with the best part of everything in you, listen. If we giving everybody else our best, are we giving God our scraps?
Right.
Are we?
Or we also, so this is the other piece of it. We
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that how we live is honoring God, right? How we show up in
Period.
spaces and places is how other people see God in us, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
are some people's first introduction to Christ. They're like, well, that person, something about this person is different. This person serves hard, this person is gracious, this person is kind, this person is loving, right? But if we are tapped out, if we are tired, if we are cantankerous, right? If we had showed up and served and probably should have set out this round, right? Then we run the risk, right? We run the risk of not giving God our first fruits in that space, right? And I need, you said you do everything, you honor him in everything, right?
Absolutely. And
In
here's the
our
thing.
living. And I know sometimes one of the things, and I always caution, even I have to check myself, even as a preacher, right? It's like, you can't preach what you don't live,
You cannot preach what you don't live. You
right?
cannot
Because
preach what you don't
how
live.
you live is the way that you preach. That's your preaching right there. That's what I always say. I hear a lot of preachers, but I watch, right? I watch. And so if we get to the place where we can't even rest, are we really trusting God to do and say what he's called, to be who he says he is?
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that we have to burn the wick at both ends?
Right?
And God won't sustain us, and God won't provide, or God won't show up if we don't put our hand to the plow and work tirelessly?
You can't preach what you don't live. You can't teach what you don't live. And baby, when you do, it listen, it diminishes what you're saying. I have sat under some folks, and just being honest, like I've sat under some folks and they preaching and teach, and I know that that's not what's happening in real life. And it's like, excuse me. Like, is that what we telling these people to do? Because that's not what we doing in real life. And
Listen, Sweeney, it's Proverbs 3, verse 9 and 10. Um,
oh, that's the scripture, Proverbs 3, verse 9 and 10.
yeah. But listen, and sometimes we forget, like, again, it's easy for us to say, hey, this is what we're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to do it, but then how many times have you had much more success when someone shows you versus someone tells you?
Listen, I got a coach right now. We had a conversation yesterday. I had a and one of the things that helps me in our process is that they do what they say they're gonna do. And when I say they do what they say they're gonna do, like I can see the example. Because if I couldn't
Yeah,
see the example, it is in those spaces when I cannot see the example that I have a real hard time doing what you say. If I don't see the fruit, I have a real hard time doing what you tell me to do. Now, not because not because I don't believe that I can get wisdom from anywhere, because I know the Lord will give us wisdom from from the donkey, right? However, like you said, it's easier to follow when I see it being done. It's
absolutely.
easier to follow when I see it being done. And I wanna hit Proverbs 3:9 and 10. I want to hit it from the message version real quick for y'all. The message version says, honor God with everything you own. Give him the first and the best. And it says, your barns will burst, your wine vat will brim over. Your barn, you're gonna have so much that you're gonna have to give something away. It says your barns will burst.
Right. And I think that's why we have to, so even in ministry, right? So we're talking about in giving in community, right? Giving in community,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, first fruits
You
in
can give
community.
in community when you have excess,
Talk.
right?
That one almost put me to
Unfortunately,
sleep. Talk.
we're listen. You can get, I mean, you can give wonderfully in community when you have access. But baby, when you're in a drought, okay, y- don't try to give the water that the Lord sent for you to sustain yourself. And sometimes what I'm finding is us as leaders, us as women who are nurturers, those of us who are put in positions to care for people, we never give ourselves permission to tap out so that we can refuel, that we can replenish, that we can reconnect. You know, all of those things are part of giving, honoring God, right? It says honor God. The whole reason why we're talking about first fruits in the first place is so that we can give God the honor that he's asking us to give him, right? That we can glorify God in the way in which we handle our resources,
Exactly. And
right? Our financial resources, we should give him, of course, we're talking tithes. We should give him the best of the tithe. We shouldn't get down to the bottom and then be giving him the scraps. You know, every increase that we're expecting, right? Every increase we're expecting. And this essentially is a prescription for prosperity. You know, even though I'm not big on, I shouldn't say I'm not big on prosperity teaching, but I am big on making sure that you're responsible, right? One of the things that Dr. Joy and I have in common in our writings is Dr. Joy is a hope coach, right? So she always talks about honest observation and practical execution, right? As Dr. Joy said, I'm the what you call it, the resident expert of getting out of God's way. Oh, that's because I've been in God's way, right? I've been identified. Listen, my book is 30 days. So it's the 30 different instances that you could be in God's way, right? So, hey, I was in those ways, right? So all I can say is, I've been in God's way a lot. So I understand how sometimes we can be the ones interfering with the blessing that God wants to give us, right? It isn't that God is delaying the blessing. It's just that we are not applying, right? We're not applying scripture. We're not applying what we know in order for God to be able to bless us. Because if God gave us more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
God gave you more time, would you serve more people, or would you fuel yourself up to be better so that you can then serve more people properly?
So here's the thing, and I have to be honest, like just like Lena said, am I doing more for other people, or am I doing enough for myself as I'm doing for other people? Her answer was no. And I love your transparency and honesty there,
Yes.
Lena. Because there has been a time where that right there, what Dawn is talking about, was absolutely me. If I had more time, I would literally serve more people because I like it, I enjoy it, I'm good at it. It feels good to me. Would I serve myself? What? Like that wasn't even a question. And I'm not talking, listen, y'all, I am not talking about, 2, 3 years ago. I'm talking about 6, 8 months ago when I literally had to be sat myself down, and also was sat down in many ways so that I could get myself together, because I was not pouring into me the way that I needed to pour into me. Now, I wasn't at a place of burnout, and I wasn't, but here's the thing, I knew the signs. And I need to take 3 months to get back to me. Now that 3 months wound up turning into a little more than 3 months, because I didn't realize how much more I needed. But in order to serve from my overflow, and thank you, Dr. Ali, for putting this here, serve from your overflow. And Dawn says serving from that saucer place, right? That means, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If I'm serving and I'm down to the dregs, you getting all of the bitters. You getting that which is doesn't taste good. You getting that which was not meant for consumption. You're getting that which was only meant to be the essence of the thing that it was to give. I think about tea. I'm a tea drinker. I love tea. And like when you get down to that bottom part, like that's the part where you pretty much stop drinking. Like you don't even want that part, because
The little
it,
floaties be in there and everything.
well, nobody wants that, right? Like nobody wants that in their life, right? Um,
But
this
it's also the highest concentration too, though. So you
it,
got to
it
be
is the
careful.
highest concentration, so it's not about getting rid of it. It's about putting some water. It's about filling it up so you can give out what needs to be given out. It's about
There we
putting
go.
more on top of it. Like, let me add a little bit more to this tea. Oh, this was a strong tea bag. Let me add a little bit more to it so I can get
Absolutely.
some more out of it. The only way I can get more, the only way that I can give more is that I get more. The only way that I can get more is that I'm tapping into what my source is, and what I my source is, and where I anchor is God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, they friends, the Bible. That's where I that's where I find myself. That's where I find myself anchored, right? And you said it best when you talked about getting out of God's way, and this whole idea of this honest observation. Like, so y'all know I believe I'm hope from the ground up, right? I've always believed that it is always more. Whether whether we at our highest high or our lowest low, it's always more. And I always believe hope stands for honest observation and practical execution, right? I always believe it starts with taking an honest look at where we are, an honest look at where we're doing, where we're giving, where we're going. Take an honest look at your calendar. Is it more other people than it is more time for yourself? Is there even time for you built into the calendar? Like, I
Well,
had to learn to build time for myself into the calendar. Go
well,
ahead.
let's even skip over that, Dr. Joy. Let's start talking about, is it time for you and the Lord, right?
Baby, listen.
Let's see. We have to start there, right? Because our first fruits would be our communication with the Lord, and then He would give us instruction about how to care for ourselves,
Absolutely. And
right?
here's the thing, when I tell you there's a spot on my calendar every day for time with the Lord, he's blocked out like a client. Because if I can put a calendar on my schedule, why I can't put Jesus on there? Listen, so, and it is about like getting honest, being in a space where I can say, here's what I need so that I can give to other people. And while I'm gonna take a quick commercial break right here, because when I find myself in a place of being able to give what I need, like, I have to find these places. We've talked about community and accountability. I have to find those things which feed me. And what better time to talk about a place or thing that will feed you than to talk about what is going down on this Sunday at where it's gonna be at, Dawn.
The home of love, girl. You didn't took a pivot.
We took a
This is
pivot.
this
But
is
the
what
home of love,
community
because
will
this is
do
what I
to
need
you.
y'all to know. If you local anywhere close to the Detroit area, I need y'all to I need you to walk to run, don't walk to the home of love for this book signing and monologues. Listen, Dawn has been on the show a bunch of days, and her being on the show has uplifted the space. And so make sure that you find yourself there if you are able, because here's the thing. When I think about being in community is not just your family. Community is not just your friends. Community is finding yourself in those places where it's other people trying to do the same things you are. So what better place than finding people that's trying to do the same thing that you are? And if it's a bunch of people in a space that's trying to get out of God's way, and that's what you're trying to do, you might need to be in the room, right? So
Absolutely.
there's that commercial break for you
Well,
right there.
I sure appreciate you, Dr. Joy. But I was back to the practical
We
execution
can go
part.
back to practice. That's a practical execution.
One of
Find
the
the thing that you can do that will help you to get out of God's way. That's a practical execution.
yes,
I meant
ma'am.
what I meant what I said, but let's go ahead to practical execution. Let's
Okay,
let's
so
knock this out
you
on
know,
practical execution.
the overlap is, your P and E and your hope is practical execution, right?
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why we are having, since you went on and did the whole commercial, one of the reasons why we're having a book signing and monologue, which is definitely not your traditional book signing and monologue, because it is a coming together, right? It is a gathering of community. It is us pressing our way to make sure that we're in right alignment with where we need to be with God, right? And so that when we get up, then we already have our instruction. When we dart out our door, we kind of have a better space, a better place, mentally set, right? And we have wisdom, right? We know Proverbs is the book of wisdom, right? It tells us
Uh-huh.
how that it instructs us on how we're to live our lives, and it's very. We always joke, they always say it's like the fortune cookie of the Bible, right? Because it's a bunch of wise sayings, all brought together. And so again, we're talking about the first fruits and why you want to honor him with your first fruits, and then there should come increase. So you're with your first fruits, there should be increase, right? Because that is the order of things. When you give God your first fruits, there should be some level of increase. Then there should be an overflow, right? Then you should
With your first fruits, there should be increase. There are some things that you should be able to look at and see whether or not it's working. Let's be clear. If you look at it and all you see is it pulling out of you, all you see is it diminishing you, all you see is negative, is it debits instead of credits or the other way around? Whatever. If that's all you see is I in it, then we got to reevaluate what it is that we need to do.
Right.
Be-
And then we won't be able to contain it, right? We won't be able to contain it. So you'll have an increase that you're not supposed to contain it. You're supposed to share it, right? And so we're talking about this thing called community. And one of the things that we talked about, and I want to take us back to, but one of the overlapping part of Dr. Joy's journey and my journey is execution, right? Or what
let's
I
get
call
it done.
application, right? We
Mhm.
don't read the Bible for sport. We read the Bible so that we can learn how to apply it to our everyday living, right? And that is how we then can give our first fruits, because we're now applying more scripture than we know, right? And so one of the things sometimes people will shun you if you say this to somebody, but I'm okay with that because God has given me a different call, and I'm all right with that.
We just
Um,
say it here. We talk about what we talk about here. Go ahead.
listen here. Uh, but sometimes it's not more Bible that you need to know. It's more Bible that you need to apply. Okay. And so sometimes we get in this space, in this place where we read the Bible because we want to know more, not because we're doing more. Right. And so
Jesus.
we have to be very careful. And that's another way we can be in God's way, is knowing a thing and not doing a thing. Right.
Hmm.
There's this thing called the knowing and doing gap. Right. It's like, that you need to love people, but your love meter, you haven't really applied the love. You know that you need to forgive people, but you haven't really quite forgiven people. You know that you need to be a good steward of your time, your talents, your treasures, but you're not actively working on it, right? The Lord says that you need to have the fruit of the spirit, but we're not learning how do we, what are some strategies? What are some ways in which I can do this? How do I heal past my trauma so that I can then forgive, right? And so we're talking about this practical execution piece, because that is the missing piece. Sometimes you always hear this saying, they will give you the shirt off their back.
Hmm.
And although I love the saying, and although, baby, I used to be the person, I would give you my shirt, my shoes, my hat, my coat, my scarf, right?
Hmm.
But if God has given you an assignment, um, He's giving you an assignment, right? And he's equipped you with everything that you need. You cannot then go and give one of the pieces of the thing that you need to continue and to sustain yourself so that you can continue to show up in good health for your assignment.
So let me pause you right there. Like I'm on because that phrase right there, I'm because I used to covet that phrase. They'll give you the shirt off your back. Not no more because I need my shirt for myself. So I can't give you the shirt off my back, but I can give you resources on how to develop so yes, you can go and get your own shirt. I can, you know what I'm saying? Unless I have another shirt, you can't have this one. Like, and I had to be able to say that to myself because I was in a space where like I was that person, but there's a I think it's an African proverb, right? That says, be wary of the person that that will give you a shirt and they don't have one. It literally says like, so somebody gonna give you what what they don't
They
have.
don't have.
You,
So
you
listen, and this, let me tell you why I said it, Dr. Joy. Let me tell you why
hmm
I said it. So repeat the regular phrase about the shirt.
they'll give you the shirt off their back.
They'll give you the shirt off their back. Now replace the word shirt with prayer.
They'll give you the prayer off their back.
Right?
They'll
They'll
get,
give you the prayer that they need to be praying for themselves.
my God.
Right? And so
Listen,
this is how. And hey, let me tell y'all, I've been all of these people, so this is no judgment here, right? This
no
is
different.
this is a Friday, Dr. Joy.
Yeah, yes,
This is Freedom
Friday.
Friday on First Fruits. Okay. So we're gonna get free today because we're gonna tell the truth, because a lot of us serve hard, we serve long, we serve serious, we serve with passion, we serve with commitment, we serve with dedication, right? We serve with pride,
Yeah, for
right?
real.
But we have to serve right, right? We
Absolutely.
have to serve full, and we have to serve whole, and we need to serve well, and we need to serve healthy, and we need to serve in honor of God,
Absolutely.
because we are his representation. And so when we are serving him, we can't be broke down and busted up,
Listen,
because
because
God is wanting people to see his light in us.
one of the reasons that the Bible talks about, how we your body being a living sacrifice is because you need it. Hello, you only have one. You got to take care of yourself in
Listen,
order to be able to help other people. We're gonna pause real quick and say good morning to those we haven't said good morning to. Good morning to those that are catching it on the replay. Good morning, E. She said put God on the calendar. Then also she said, she asked if you had a virtual option for your monologues. We will definitely get that information to you.
yes, ma'am.
E, make sure that you have that. But yeah, absolutely. Like, y'all, listen, listen, y'all. In this phase and space of taking care of yourself, um, it's so important that we look at our motive behind what we do, why we do what we do.
And you
Why do
fill up the area, the motive, right? Because
absolutely,
sometimes our giving, our praying of what's in the cup is because we haven't really sat with the Father to get filled ourselves. So we get it from
absolutely.
the praise of people, we get it from the well dones of people, we get it from the, oh, I appreciate you showing up. We get all of that affirmation, and we get all of that from an outside source. So we have to be careful. And again, this is Freedom Friday, full of transparency, right? One of the 5 years ago, I used to do this thing called Freedom Fridays, and we talked about subjects that I felt like people that kept people bound.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is in how we were taught to lead. Sometimes it was how we were taught to serve. Right? We were taught to serve, that we had to run ourselves in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And yes, we do sacrifice. Listen, this 6 a.m. is a sacrifice. Let's be
Baby,
very.
it's a
I'm a night person. I would love to
sacrifice.
be in my bed right now, cuddling up, prepare, resting so that I can prepare for Sunday. But no, Dr. Joy called, and I said, oh, it would have been one thing if I didn't see the call, right? It was one thing
Yeah.
if I didn't understand that the assignment on my life at this present moment is to make sure that people understand the importance of getting out of God's way. It is a journey of surrender and obedience, right? Surrender is your posture, and obedience should be your goal, right? So we are trying to surrender to everything that we have found in our lives that's out of place, and bring
Mm-hmm.
that thing through into a space of obedience, right? Where we're obedient to God, where we're giving of our first fruits. We're giving of our first fruits. Listen, baby, sometimes I gave my first fruits, but I wasn't giving them gladly.
So
Okay?
I
I wasn't giving them gladly. I was
listen.
like,
And
I'm gonna give you these first fruits, Lord, but baby,
so at one point I was giving first fruits, and I not only was I not giving them gladly, I was giving them with begrudgingly. Like I was giving them, and I was like, Lord, I how I'm giving you this, or how I'm giving this, not just giving him this, but or I was giving it to a point where I was coveting it. Well, Lord, this other thing shouldn't be happening because I'm giving this. I'm doing the thing that you told me to do. But it's just like the Cain and Abel offering, right? Like
yeah,
Cain and Abel both gave an offering. God was like, but yours I don't accept
yeah,
because it's not your best. Where Abel gave his best, and God was like, his offering was more acceptable than Cain's, right? And so we got to be careful about the offering that we give. Because, baby, when I tell you the Lord sat me down from giving giving offering, he was like, "Don't give another dime." Because
Listen,
if you giving a dime as if it's transactional, as if it's an exchange, don't give another one.
listen, let me tell you something. So I'm gonna be very transparent here, and I hope you know. Listen, so one of the things I'm blessed to do is I'm I operate in leadership for churches, right? And I oversee their teams, and I oversee their ministries and things of that particular nature. And I consult, and I basically tell people, hey, maybe you need to change this, maybe you need to do this. This is what I'm observing. So I had this one encounter. And so at this at a house of worship, and I wind up having to tell the pastor, if I had to go to this particular person to pay my tithe, I would not.
Period.
Just because of the spirit of the person receiving the offering that I was giving, right? And we have to be very careful because I wind up saying she's tapped out, she's tired, she needs a break because it's
Yeah,
interfering with the
yeah.
flow, right? And so one of the reasons why we have to make sure that when we show up in community, when you say you're going to be there for someone, Dr. Joy, I could not even, it doesn't matter what time that you called me. If I was going to get on here and when you started talking about first fruits, and I leaned over to the side and I'm like, yeah, girl. Oh, child, I'm tired. Then I should have just said no,
You should
right?
stay
I should have
stayed
just
in the
said no.
bed.
And so sometimes, listen to me. Sometimes if I am in community with you, I would prefer that you tell me no than to show up out of alignment. Because what it does for me, if you're in community with me and I am giving first fruits to the Lord, I'm just using myself as an example, right? If I'm
My
giving first
God.
fruits to the Lord, or if you're giving first fruits to the Lord, and so listen, I'm talking to you leaders. If you're giving your first fruits, if you're fasting, if you're praying, if you worked on your issues so that you can get to a place in Christ, when you link up with someone else in community, you have to make sure they understand the sacrifices that you've made. You have to understand that you have to know that they've appreciated the sacrifices that you made, or else you will find yourself on your assignment, trying to do your assignment and trying to get the person you're now in community with to be in alignment. So now you are carrying a weight and still trying to minister at the same time. And sometimes what you have to do is you have to turn to the person that you do community with because you love them, because you appreciate them, because they mean something to you, and say to them, it's time for you to tap out, right? It's time for you to tap out. You need to replenish, you need to refuel, and you can support them in a way. And so there's a lot that comes with this scripture in Proverbs, because it's not just talking about honoring with your first fruits, but it says that every dimension of your life will have overflowing blessings from an uncontainable source of inner joy, right? Of inner joy. Like, we should not be showing up serving God mad. Just stop,
Period.
right?
Period.
Just stop. Even Jesus had to go sit with his father,
Oui.
right? Even and sometimes we have to read the Bible for application purposes, right? And so sometimes we're going to be mad. Let's be clear. I'm not saying that you can't be mad. I'm not saying that you can't be disappointed. I'm not saying that you can't be frustrated. Baby, I've been all three at the same time, on fire with hot chicken grease. Okay.
Uh, not with hot chicken grease.
Listen, you know what you can hear it
I
popping,
was
cracking, everything, right?
crackling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All of those things. But it was because I was misappropriating the resources God had given me. The time that God had given me to sit with him, I was running around doing everything for everybody else. The time that the Lord had given me instruction for my life, I was sharing the instructions with other people.
Hmm.
Tap out, Swaney. Listen, I am an encourager of people who tap out. Listen, here at the lighthouse, I got a whole restroom over here. If you need to tap out, I have a room with a bed. Okay. Listen, I always tell people in ministry, ask for what you need. And I can only say that because I am a person who I had a hard time asking for what I needed.
Hmm.
right? And now, now I will send you a text. I was just having this conversation with Dr. Ali the other day. I will send you a text. I sent my family, a text, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for one person to just come over here and sit on the couch while I clean up, right?
Mhm.
That's all I need from you. I just need you to sit here because I need to clean. But at this present moment, I have so many different things going on that if I start cleaning, then I may get pulled away to something else. Can somebody come sit with me so that I can
Mhm.
clean?"
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Um, or I told my daughter, "Listen, ma'am, I know she's in college. I know you're accustomed to me dropping you up, but you're gonna need to find another solution,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because I need that time for me.
Mhm.
I'm getting up earlier. The Lord has called me to an earlier season with Him. I'm getting up earlier. I have other things on my plate. And you need to be a better resource for yourself. So here, I'll encourage you. But I need you to figure out how to carry this on your own now,
Mhm.
right? And so sometimes we have to push back from people. Dr. Joy and I were talking about this the other day. People prefer that you do it.
Yes.
It's not their only option sometimes, but you might be
Yes.
their preference, right? And just because you are that I'm your preference doesn't mean that I have to make it my priority. And Dr. Joy and
Yeah.
I had this
Just
conversation.
because I'm, let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. Just because I'm your preference does not mean that I have to make it my priority. And I think if a lot of us take that right there, just because I need somebody to type that in the chat so we can capture that. But I'm your preference, just because I'm your preference does not mean that I have to make it my priority. That's the thing about being in community and being in community well, right? We should be in community where we can say that something akin to that, right? That we
Yeah.
can say like, hey, is there a way that we can um get the thing done, right? That you can get the thing done without me,
Yeah.
because there are other things that God is calling me to in this season. Sweeney said, Dr. Stevens, you are blessing me this morning. Yes, Dr. Stevens, you are
Thank,
blessing us
thank
on.
you, Sweeney, but I am not a doctor. Okay, now, I don't know what you and Dr. Joy is in cahoots. Okay, because y'all keep with this doctor thing. But I'm glad you are blessed, Sweeney. Listen, let me tell you, I know a few things, and when God sends you a message that it's time to tap out, okay, tap out. You will be better for it. I promise you. Listen, it was been over 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I started a prayer group, right? It's over 10 years ago. I started a prayer group. I mean, it caught on like wildfire, right? And then all of a sudden, God told me, I need you to tap out, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, nah. But when I say that tapping out opened up so much inner peace, inner healing, just clarity, direction. I I now see what I was doing when I got out of God's way at that time, right? And what I always say is I sold it.
Mhm.
Anything that I have to give up for God, I sold it. And that kind of helps me not get mad, right?
Yeah. 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 For
Right, or
sure.
not feel a certain way. But I wanted to add some flavor and some texture to around what you were saying, Dr. Joy. What was your last statement that you just made?
I
Bring it
have
back
no
to me.
idea,
Okay,
chat.
really
Oh, just because your preference doesn't make it my priority.
Okay, and let me
Thank
just
you
show
for
you
capturing
what
that
that could
for
look
us.
like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just tell you what that could and possibly could look like, right? So I prefer to go to Dr. Joy because if I go to Dr. Ali is going to ask me different questions. It's going to challenge me. And not in real life. I'm just saying using this
It's a
as
great
an
example.
example,
It's a great
right?
example.
I prefer to go to I prefer to go to my younger sister because my younger sister not gonna ask me a whole lot of questions when I ask her to borrow $20.
Yes.
Right. If I go to my older sister, she gonna ask me why I need the $20, how many times I come into $20. Girl, maybe you need to. She's going to try to give me tools and resources to make me sustain myself. So sometimes people's coming to you as a preference is because it's easier for them. They're not even considering all that you might have to move around, all that you might have to. They haven't considered beyond what they need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is your job to properly prioritize their preference. And sometimes you will find that their preference don't even fit on your
It
priority list.
it is your job. It's our job. It is our job. It is our job. Say it with me, y'all. It is our job to properly prioritize their preference. It can be your preference. I just don't have to I just don't have to yield to it just because it's your preference. I have to my responsibility, and this is where we take accountability for our own actions here. My responsibility is to say, is this my what is the priority of this thing, right? And there are some things that we're gonna prioritize higher than others. There are some things that can be said. I'm a drop at the drop of a hat. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's a
Yeah.
priority. Baby,
But
I am at the hospital right now instead of Aruba because I got a call, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Now that was me prioritizing what I felt like needed to happen. Okay. Now
absolutely.
here's the thing. There may be a time when something else if it had been something else, I'd have been like, no, I can't do that because I got something that I need to do or that I even want to do, right? And we said it yesterday on the show. It's okay to be content. It's okay to not show up for everybody. It's okay to say, hey, I get this is what how you think I should show up because you know the skills or the talents that I have. However, this is not how I'm showing up in this season.
Listen, and it's okay to let it go to voicemail.
I had to go to sleep on you. Yes, it's
No,
okay to let it
listen,
go
I'm
to
giving practical.
voicemail.
Listen, this is the
Yes,
practical application part, right? So,
yes.
and listen, let me tell you again, as I said to you before, I support ministries, I support ministry leaders, I support everybody sometimes in a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you support people, if you are any type of prayer intercessor, right? If you're in any type of leadership role, anytime there's an issue, you're going to get a call, right? And so sometimes you have to have time periods that are uninterruptible. Like your time with God should be uninterruptible. Like, right? Like your time when you're sowing and pouring into your children, or when you're focusing in on one thing. So around about noon today, I'll be in what's kind of considered a DND, do not disturb, unless it's ministry related, which means, of a certain, there's a
Caliber. I'm
tier
with
there,
you.
a caliber, right? And so because I want to focus in. I want to yield myself to see what God has for me to do, as I'm going to minister. But what I'm saying is sometimes if you're like me and I answered my phone, it doesn't matter the time of the hour. As you said, Dr. Joy said she texted me last night and I'm like, okay, fine. Right. But because of how I've served, I'm accustomed to always answering the phone immediately, always doing the request immediately. Because one reason, because if it get down the to-do list, it might not ever get done. But
Period.
you also have to understand what that does for the things that you've prioritized in your day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
you take every person's request when it comes, right? It chips away at the time you have to complete the things that you've already placed on your list. Now, I'm not talking about, listen, I'm a prayer intercessor, so I get hospital visitation calls. I have all of those things that I have to factor into the equation, and I build buffer time in my day for that. However, if you run consistently for 5, 10, 15 years in ministry,
Mm-hmm.
consistently bumping all of your things,
Mm-hmm.
these things that even should be first fruits to the end, you're going to be worn out. You're going to be tapped. You're going to be tired. It will wear on you. Right.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I'm most pleased about is when I'm seeing people who give, actually replenish, relax. Right. We did our retreat last 2 weeks, 2 months ago, several months back, and people just needed to sleep. Right? Some people just needed to rest. Some people just needed to sit near the water and hear God. Some people, because we serve hard, y'all, but want to be very careful. Don't serve long and serve wrong.
Don't serve long and serve wrong. I love it. I love it. I love it. And with that, before Dawn gives us our last point and our last thing for today, I want to do some announcements and some housekeeping. Like she just talked about, being able to relax and release. We got one of those retreats that's coming up. It's coming up 10/3 to 10/7. If you know somebody, we got a space. We have a space in the place. So let me know if that's something that you are interested in. Don't let it be feel like, oh, I can't do it because it's Aruba. No, like, listen, figure it out. If that's something, if that's a desire for you and you hear this announcement, listen, get with me and we will figure out how to make it happen. Don't allow yourself to think that you can. Don't stop at whatever that limiting thought is. I don't got the money. Don't let it stop at I don't got whatever the thing is you don't got. Don't worry about that. If it's something that you want to do and God has put on your heart to do, call me. I bet you we figure it out. All right, cool. That's that. So we got that Aruba retreat coming up. That's announcement number one. That's coming up 10/3 to 10/7, 4 nights in Aruba. Let's see if you can meet me there for the best me retreat. I'm excited about that. The second thing is it's my birthday, y'all, and I like to give away things for my birthday because it's my birthday. And so we're giving away this book right here, Launch the Legacy. The visionary author is Dr. Ali Griffith, but I wrote the first chapter, and that chapter is called Finally Living My Dreams. Finally Living My Dreams. If that's a place you want to be and you're like, man, I got some dreams I want to live. Man, I want to see how somebody else does it. That's a chapter that's for you. And this ain't a book I'm asking you to buy. This is a book that I'm giving away. I think I got 4 more to give away. So if you want it, I just want you to put in the chat, I want that book, and tag me if you can. Even if you can't tag me, just write, I want that book, and I should see it, and I will reach out and get that information. People are receiving those books. E says, I wrote in it too. She said, I'm chapter 11. Thank you, E, for that. Absolutely. It's a bunch of us in it. So absolutely. And that book is getting given away. So if you want that book, if you need that book in your life, first of all, let me bring that picture back up really quickly. It's called Launch the Legacy. It's about creating business brand that builds generational wealth. However, it is also about it's a collective. It's about moving forward. It's about building your own legacy, right? And so again, this is a giveaway. I ain't asking for nothing for it, not even the shipping. Okay, this ain't even one of those for your gift of anything. Nope, this is I'm giving this to you. If you want to put in the chat that I want that book. Again, I wrote that chapter on finally living my dreams. Couple of other things that's coming out you're getting ready to see. Of course, I talked about the retreat, but you're getting ready to see my book drop. It's coming soon, so I need y'all to govern yourselves appropriately for that. That is coming out. And there's also going to be a series of workshops coming out. Govern yourselves accordingly for that. So these are your Sunday announcements, and I need y'all to govern yourselves accordingly for those. Sweeney said, don't serve long and serve wrong. Listen, don't do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it to yourself. And don't you do it to the people you're serving. Listen, everybody, it's a connectivity piece, right? I talked the other day about being Jonah. Don't be Jonah. Don't be Jonah. And don't be Jonah on a lot of tips, right? Like Jonah was like, I don't want to do it. Get somebody else to do it. And so he went the whole other opposite direction. And then he got on these people boat, about to tear these people boat up because he ain't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Don't tear these
Listen,
people boat up because you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. Don't be
listen.
Jonah.
That's
Don't you
that's
do
for all
it.
my ushers right there.
Don't you do it. If you out of place, you mess up the place. There you go. There's a sound bite for you.
Wow. Oh, you messed up the place.
If you out of place, you mess up the place. And so
Don't go
know
mess the
that
place up.
and be responsible to that. Be responsible to that.
Mhm.
Dawn has put a link in the chat, and this is for the virtual space. If you would
I
like to
think Coach
be
E asked about that. Yes. I that's the virtual space, but if you are local, you want to be in the room. There's something that's going to take place in the room that yeah, it's inexplainable. I mean, of course, because the Holy Spirit is going to be there first.
first
Okay,
and foremost.
first and foremost. Actually, clear the first and period. How about that?
Period.
Um, and so one of the things about being committed to getting out of God's way, your journey of surrender and obedience, is it is absolutely necessary. It is a lifestyle. It isn't a book that you read. It's a life that you live. Right? The book is just the conversation, but the life that you live should be a surrender life. The life that you should live should be an obedient life. And the life that you live should be a testament of your time spent with God. Right? And so people should see God when they see you. They should see how how God has blessed you, how God, and I'm not always talking about, so sometimes we think that this blessing, God's blessing, is always of a physical nature, right? Oh, I got a house, I got a car, I got all of these tangible things, right? No, you can just come in person. Come on in person. You can register if you like. It is not required, right? It's not
Take
required.
a screenshot right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. Take your screenshot so you have the information and just
Lena,
show
if
up.
you in the house, girl, you gotta make sure you know that I know that it's you. Um, and again, we definitely want to make sure that this is a lifestyle, y'all. This is not a game. It's not a joke. One
Mhm.
of the assignments, I have one of those calls. I have a call that I always have to go have the uncomfortable messages with people, right? And so I always say I don't have a tutu ministry. I'm more less Oprah and more Dr. Phil, right? And so sometimes I have to give it to you straight because I minister to people, right? I minister to people who God has already told nicely several times, right? So I couldn't write a book gently slide over some, right? No, because God's already told you that, right? Go and have a rest with the Father. God's already told you that. So now the Lord sends me to tell you, getting out of God's way, right? One of the reasons why I didn't say get out of God's way, because then that would give people the impression that it's a one-time thing. But it is
Mhm.
it is a progression of consistency, consistently making the choice to live a surrendered and obedient life so that we're not impeding God's progress in how we're showing up in places.
Mhm.
And so it is my prayer for those of you all who are listening, who need rest, who need restoration, to go find rest in the word. Go find rest at the feet of your Father. Add more time with God. Go replenish and listen. I am a proponent. One of the things I promote the things that I do, right? For many years, I've taken a vacation tap out every quarter. If you go to my page right now, you'll see a picture of me in Japan, right? I think that was last quarter or the quarter before that. But I have to, when I serve hard, I serve with seriousness, I serve sacrificially. So there is a requirement for me to refuel and replenish myself. And so for those of you all who have not, and I don't care, I told this to Dr. Joy the other day, even if you have to, again, the restroom, I call it a rest room and not a bathroom, but it is a room with a bed where people just need to go and sleep. Right, because people don't sleep. I mean, I know this about my ministry leaders. Y'all don't sleep. Y'all all up all times of the night. You serve. You don't eat, right? Just sacrificially. And the Lord is calling us to greater, to better, to more self-care, right? To more self-love. And so again, Dr. Joy has that retreat if somebody's in need of a rest. Um, but make sure that you make God's first fruits your priority, right? And not for you, right? Because your first fruits is not just so that your household can have something, right?
Mhm.
It's so that you can then use your resources to bless others, right? It's supposed to be an overflow situation. And so there's this song called Bless Me So That I Can Bless Somebody Else. I think it's by Kurt Carr. Bless somebody else is what it's called. Because I'm blessed, right? I got to bless. I help me to bless somebody else, right? And so it is my prayer today that you all have your cups full.
Mhm.
Fill your cup. Do whatever is necessary. Make whatever adjustments that you need to make. What adjustments do you need to make? That's my question for you this morning. After we get off this call, sometime today, sit with the Lord and ask Him what adjustments you need to make in your life in
Mhm.
order to get to serve from a full cup, right? To serve from your overflow, but for your cup to be full.
Absolutely. Honest observation. What adjustment do you need to be made? And then the practical execution for that is going to be take one step towards that. All right. Listen,
Dr. Joy,
we
what video were we talking about saying no? Do you remember? One of these days we
baby, I
talked
don't
about
know.
no, but no is gonna be your friend. If you
Go
feeling tapped out, I
go
need you
back
to
to the list. It might have been this Wednesday. Why Wednesdays? Not why Wednesdays. That's not us. Why Wednesday? Somebody else. Well, Wednesday. What
yes, get
Wednesday?
out God's way Wednesday. Yeah.
Getting
The
out of
no.
God's way Wednesday.
Your no is
Uh,
just as important as your yes.
yes. And I need to be able to trust your no. I need, and I can't.
Let your no be no and your yay be yay. That's
And
what
here's the
scripture we was
and this
on.
is the reality though. If you always saying no, I mean, say if you always saying yes when you should say no, then I don't even trust your yes. I want to be able to trust your yes and your no. Okay. So listen, we've talked about first fruits and community today, and I'm excited. I'm super excited, and that has taken us on this route. This supposed to be 30 minutes, y'all. We gonna be off of here. We going back to our 30-minute format to the tomorrow. Maybe we gonna see, but the Lord does what the Lord does. So we're not putting a time limit on it. We got a little bit of time here. So listen, if you're wondering, let me ask, because as she was talking about that last part about, just being able to rest, and especially in leadership and those kind of things, if you're wondering where you are on the scale, if you're wondering about burnout, I'm going to put in the chat this burnout assessment for you to go and take. Go and take this burnout assessment, and that assessment will literally show you where you are, and give you some opportunities to see what things you need to do next. Okay, so go ahead and take that burnout assessment just to see where you are, just to see where you land. It's short, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 questions that I wrote to be able to help people to just to see where, just like I said, see where they are and give yourself some options. And if you feel like you're lacking in that rest space, go and see. Just go and see. All right. Listen, today has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Dawn. Thank you for coming on, Dawn, in the man, listen, coming in the clutch. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
No,
Y'all.
Dr. Joy, thank you so much for all of your constant so listen, let me just be very transparent. This is why community and tribe is important. And I thank you, Dr. Joy, because one of the things that I appreciate about Joy is um she has the same spirit that I have when it comes to serving. Sometimes she sees the need and she feels the need, right? And so she'll just ask me certain questions that she know that I should have either worked on or have been done for Sunday. And so I just thank you for one being a part of the 40 days of getting out of God's way when we did it the first time. It was such an encouragement to have someone on responding and things of that particular nature. So there was no way that I was not going to support you in your effort to do the first fruits, because when people sow into your life, then I've been taught that you sow back, right? And so again, this is my way to sow back into you and tell you that I appreciate what you've meant for me and my ministry, right? And so thank you for all that you do. I greatly appreciate it. And again, when seeking out people in community, make sure that you link up with other people who know the sacrifices that you've had and that can appreciate, but then can also match your energy. And so in a season where you're running, you don't want somebody that's walking.
Listen, because I can't slow down. Because I can't slow down. Absolutely. Absolutely. Get somebody that will match your energy. I love that, and I appreciate that. It's so necessary. It's so necessary. And yeah, God is faithful in how he works and how he moves. All right, y'all. Listen, we are out for real. Thank you, Sweeney. We try to be amazing. We try to be what God has called us to be. And so yeah, check out Proverbs 3 and 9 today, you guys. God is in the surprise and miracle working business. And then here's the honest observation. Evaluate your community. Get honest about who's in your community, who's in your corner. Are the people in your, ask some questions. Are the people in your corner that you want to be in your corner? If they are not, then let's do some things to fix that. All right.
Absolutely.
So again, hit up Dawn's event this Sunday in Detroit if you are available. You guys had time to get that screenshot. If not, go back for it and grab that screenshot. And if you just need the information, put it in the chat, and I'm sure one of us will hit you back up on that. So that's what we got going up in the state of Michigan. So I'm excited about being here and what's getting ready to happen, what God is getting ready to do. So, all right, y'all. That's it. Y'all be blessed.
Be blessed.